Kevin Byard just got cut by the Eagles. The Titans fans want him back because the reason that Byard got cut, performance in part, for sure. The decline of Kevin Byard started here in Tennessee. We talked about the idea of them having moved money around already because they were clearly signaling that they were getting ready to move on from Kevin Byard in some form or fashion. They did a deal. They got the 5th and 6th round pick in 2024 out of it. Is Kevin Byard somebody the Titans fans want back for the right price? Because I didn't get a ton of, hey, re-sign Jonnu Smith. Even though Jonnu's coming off, arguably, I think a career best year if to look at the numbers.
In Atlanta?
Which is not something that we would have thought about. But Jonnu Smith had a better year than I think a lot of people anticipated since he landed back with Art. Jonnu, KB.
It was a career year.
Yeah.
Career high in yards, not in touchdown. Man, he had 8 touchdowns in that 2020 season.
They were ripping touchdowns off left and right in 2020.
Just a red zone threat too, right? Because he wasn't, he didn't break 500 yards receiving that season, but 8 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing as well. He had 3 touchdowns, but a career high in yards with 582 and also in catches with 50.
And Jameson says of the stadium announcement, I watched the whole stream. I'll never get those hours back. I just can't imagine why. Because I had fans tweeting me asking if it was a public event. I was like, do you really want to go to that?
It was public. Anybody could walk up. It was very accessible.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not something that they made clear in the press releases. They said that they were going to live stream it everywhere.
You could just pull in and you tell the security guy out there, I'm here for the groundbreaking, and anybody could park and walk up.
Okay, so it's not that there was a public event. It's that the security measures probably weren't the best, it sounds like.
I think it was designed to be a public event.
Okay.
That's not how they publicized it, but.
So, Jonnu, KB, do you want guys like that back? Because you have the cap space. I'm good on Kevin Byard playing for the Tennessee Titans at this point in his career. I think that if you watch the way that the Eagles secondary looked old and slow and that KB was a part of the problem.
He'll be 31 this season.
And that's not old, but it does feel like defensive backs and wide receivers, it's just an athleticism thing, right? It falls off a cliff. Now, you don't have to be as athletic at safety as you do at corner, for example. So it's not the most important thing in the world. It's why guys like Logan Ryan move from corner to safety in the later stages of their career. It's just it's more feasible at that point. But he's definitely not the same player. And the contract situation in Philadelphia, I think, always lent itself to this being the conclusion for them. Is there some sentimental attachment? Of course there is. Of course there is. Kevin Byard's one of the best players to ever play for this franchise. Blaine, I have heard say that Kevin Byard is the best safety to play for this franchise. I'm not going to say it, but if Blaine Bishop does, that's 100%. That's one of the biggest ringing endorsements that you could have from somebody who should also be absolutely in that conversation. But Byard was always on the top of any of these cap casualty lists that you looked around. The secondary in Philadelphia got worse after they traded for him. Byard last year allowed a completion rate of 72.7%. 10 regular season games with the Eagles. 6 games with the Titans, 72.7%. This is courtesy of alltitans.com. In 10 regular season games with Philadelphia, the rate rose from 72.7 to 75.6. Passer rating allowed increased from 99.8 to 103.3. Those are the worst numbers of Kevin Byard's career in those respective categories. I'm sure the Twitch names make me laugh sometimes. Scrummy37 on Twitch says, I'm okay with KB coming back. Good leadership for new guys coming in. Emmett Jones says, bring back Byard for the low. What is the safety class like next year? Olivia wants to know, could you bring back Byard on a 1-year deal and then draft a safety next year to replace him? I don't think if they moved him once, they're going to want to bring him back, guys. Listen, no, I don't know how Denard Wilson feels about Kevin Byard, And I'm not going to say that there's a 100% chance that Kevin Byard is not going to be a Tennessee Titan next year. I'm not going to say there's a 100% chance of anything. But I would be really surprised if there was any kind of real effort to go out there and pursue KB in free agency. They do have a needed safety they have to fill. I don't think Elijah Molden is the kind of player that you want running alongside Amani Hooker for an entire season.
Well, we talked about safety being one of the spots that you may have to see some compromise,
Sure.
right, for lack of a better word, with the inability to completely rebuild every corner of a roster in one offseason, no matter how many resources you have. Be worse ways to compromise than bringing back Kevin Byard on a low-end deal for 2024. I know he did struggle last year.
It was bad.
But the Eagles' defense also struggled as a whole. And their pass rush, which
Fell off
was
a cliff.
tops in the NFL 2 years ago, exactly, fell off a cliff. That affected the entire defense top to bottom. They had inconsistencies on who was calling the play. It was a revolving door.
Their defensive
Sean
coordinator
Desai.
in season and
Yeah.
then didn't
It was a
left it
mess.
over to Matt Patricia. It was
Total
There
mess.
are more things than just Kevin Byard's decline here, but Kevin Byard was already a declining player in Tennessee last year that was noticeable, Lucas. And I just think that if you have the opportunity to restart this, and I'm not for going out now that L'Jarius Sneed, and I know the Chiefs have given L'Jarius Sneed the opportunity to seek a trade now that they franchise tagged him. But the more that I think about this, the more that I would rather see the resources spent on wide receivers, centers, and the draft picks spent on the defense, or supplemented by the defense. If you can get a stopgap replacement level starter, and maybe that's KB at 31, I don't know, but I don't think that's something that you have to revisit.
What do you think his market value would be?
What was he making? Why don't we talk about that coming up next before Coach Mack joins the discussion? We'll talk Combine, of course, with him because I want to take a look at some of the salary figures going around for safety right now and speak out of turn. So we'll do that coming up next. Coach Mack as well. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.